One of the challenges during that period to the traditional Jewish community came from the Karite community. How a little bit about the Karaite community during those times, and how did Avram ben ha-Rambam deal with the local Karaite community?
It appears that the Karaite community was not under the jurisdiction of the Nugget, the Rais. It appears they functioned independently, and therefore the Rabbinite leaders, the Nugget, which was the head of the rabbinical community, could not enforce total separation from the Karaites, could not force the Karaites to adopt rabbinical practices. They didn't have that kind of control. They had control over their own community with by imposing the ban and imposing a cherem to try to wipe out certain influences which had infiltrated from the Karaite community, but they couldn't directly impose anything on the Karaites. The Karaites were independent. And a very fascinating thing we find in the Rambam's own thought with regards to the Karaites. Early on, in the Pirush HaMishnayos, which is the Rambam's first work, started already in Spain before the Rambam had joined had found his way to Egypt because of the Almohad persecution. He started the Pirush HaMishnayos, and that's his earliest thought. It finds its expression in this Pirush HaMishnayos. In the Pirush HaMishnayos, when the Rambam addresses the Karaites, he refers to them as minim, heretics, and he includes Karaites in the sweeping declaration that heretics are to be dispensed with by any means possible, which is a death sentence for the Karaite community. If the Rabbinites find themselves where they can dispose of the Karaites, they were enjoined to do so by the Rambam, according to his early thoughts. Later, this likely has to do with coming into direct contact with them in Cairo, in Fustat, in Egypt. He tones down the rhetoric and he adds a note, he incorporates it into the text where he writes that this does not apply to present day Karaites who are only inheriting the religion of their fathers. The belief system that they have is inherited. They didn't start it there in modern halachic parlance. He calls them a tinok shenishba, a captive child who was raised in the wrong tradition. We don't hold it against him. We don't consider him a heretic per se, and therefore what he had originally written regarding heretics would not apply to the Karaite community. Later on, he was asked specific questions. What do we do with the wine of the Karaites? Can we drink their wine? Can we answer amen to their blessings? Do we treat them as Jews or do we treat them as Gentiles? There, in a responsum which is somewhat disputed, the scholarly community now believes it is authentic, although Rabbi Shilat and other experts have cast doubts on its authenticity. But I believe that the modern scholarship does prove it to be authentic, particularly because Rabbenu Avraham also refers to a lenient responsum of his father. So it's most likely this is the responsum. But in this last teshuvah, the Rambam takes a very lenient position, and he's very cordial and conciliatory. And he writes about how the Karaites should be treated with love and respect, and eventually brought back into the fold wherever possible. And that's a very striking statement from the leader of the Rabbinite community, almost unprecedented. And usually the Karaites and the Rabbinites operate independently, but where they do come into contact, it's usually friction. And in this case, it's the overtures of peace and friendship on the Rambam's part is very striking. In the Rambam's lifetime and in Rabbeinu Avram's lifetime, this wish was not fulfilled. However, later on, in Rabbi Avram's namesake, the Rabbi Avram the Nugget II, which is his grandson, the son of his son Reb David HaNugget, in Reb David II's, in Rabbi Avram II's tenure, there is a report about 300 family heads of the Karaite community actually embracing the Rabbinism, which is also an unprecedented case. This was reported by the Kafta Referach. Others who didn't know the history well enough have conflated this second Rabbi Avram with the first Rabbi Avram, and they've attributed this great act to the Rabbi Avram under discussion, the Rambam's son. However, it didn't happen in Rabbi Avram the first's lifetime. It happened in the lifetime of his grandson. So we do see that the seeds planted by the Rambam eventually did bear fruit, and that also contributes to the weighs in on the side of those who view this response of the Rambam as authentic, because later history does bear out a very conciliatory and peaceful approach to the Karaites.